My name's GILLBANKS. The title of the work is Working Model 1.
I basically have set up the work as a means to reveal the form of the cube, and I kind of the idea was to get the patrons to come and reveal that. I stand back and allow that to happen. I set up these installation type sculptures, these tensional mesh structures that sit within the cube, and the audience or patrons then navigate around and try to, well, they're given freedom to basically do what they want within that space. And that's this level of freedom that is usually kind of not really given to the general public within that framework. And in doing so, I think people found it liberating to a degree. Almost it got chaotic at points in doing it. But what I wanted to see was people kind of expressing themselves in whatever poetic or banal way they wished. The space itself, I wanted to set up as like a metaphor for the office space. The solid desk, the lamp, the table lamp and the fake plants, as this suggestion of a kind of artificial environment. And then kind of switch it and create this surreal space, something that takes you somewhere else. And in that, the audience is then able to kind of communicate to something else, something greater than the limitations set by the cube, the glass enclosure. The spray can as a tool came about through looking into the Situationist International and specifically the '68 riots. They were all about, I think, the freedom, the giving of freedom to the people, and what happens then during the '68 riots especially. You see the scrawlings of spray paint on the walls throughout Paris, and it's this really poetic kind of a moment in history where students kind of came together and set a kind of rebellion against institutions, the institutions of modernism, looking for something more beyond modernism by subverting the rule of law. I think in terms of before, I wasn't expecting it to be so successful in terms of how quickly it got out of hand and how quickly it did devolve into a chaotic experiment. I mean, as soon as the spray cans came out, the people came running, and I think the more powerful thing as well, judging between the two nights, was that the blank canvas was more appealing than something that had already been torn down or already been, destroyed. It wasn't conceived as a political gesture per se. I mean, I did want to express the cube, the actual dimensions of the space, and for the people to kind of take that upon themselves. The the architect element of the Situationist, Constant Neuenhaus, I think his name is. Not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name, but he went by Constant. And he did all the drawings, and he came up with this idea of detourning cities and appropriating spaces and putting them in new spaces, and creating these strange environments that you can push and pull, and you're always playing with it, and you're always touching, you're always moving from space to space in this really fluid kind of a manner. And he did all these drawings, and after the 68, before the 68 riots and models and things, then after the 68 riots and after the Vietnam War and all this kind of brutality and violence that happened through revolt, he kind of moved away from the Situationists and moved away from this idea of giving freedom to the people. And he just saw, once, he felt at least, that once you gave people that freedom, it does descend into chaos, and that chaos is completely uncontrollable and doesn't result in the revolution that you actually are seeking to achieve, as expressed in the result of the 68 riots, I suppose.